Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a profound philosophical puzzle that has literally kept humanity awake for thousands of years. We're looking at the ultimate showdown, human choice versus predetermined destiny. Let's dive in.
So, think about this for a second. Are you really the author of your own life? I mean, we wake up every single day just assuming we're making choices, right? What to eat, what to wear, who to talk to. But what if we completely pull the rug out from under that assumption? What if an all-knowing God, or maybe just an inescapable fate, has already mapped out every single step you take?
To help us navigate this massive maze, we're going to be looking at a really fascinating academic thesis from the Maria Assumpta Seminary. This source material takes a deep, structured dive into whether our innate capacity for free will can actually survive the crushing logic of fatalism. It is a brilliant distillation of one of the absolute oldest debates in human history.
First things first, we need to understand exactly what we're up against here, and that is fatalism. Essentially, this is the belief that man is completely powerless to do anything other than what he actually does. In this view, all events are determined by fate or some external force. Fatalism basically makes us feel like mere puppets in the theater of life, just acting out a script that we had absolutely no part in writing. The 12th century philosopher Moses Maimonides brilliantly illustrated the heavy historical weight of this whole dilemma. He asked, does God know or does he not know that a certain individual will be good or bad? It necessarily follows that man is compelled to act as God knew beforehand. The logic here is just incredibly tight. If an omniscient, all-knowing being perfectly knows the future, well then the future must be completely fixed.
Let's move into Section 1, the roots of fatalism, from spirits to fates.
It turns out this deep feeling of helplessness goes way, way back. In Paleolithic animism, early humans believed spirits in trees and rivers completely controlled their destiny. Then, of course, you had Greek mythology and the three fates, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. These three sisters literally wove the threads of human life, totally ignoring whatever a mortal actually wanted, and the Romans had fatum, literally something spoken by the gods. So, across history, humanity has rarely felt like they were the ones in the driver's seat.
That brings us to Section 2, the omniscience dilemma, fatalism in action.
As time went on, philosophers started translating those ancient myths into strict, undeniable logic. Let's walk through what they call the classic idol argument. Step 1, you get sick. Step 2, according to fatalism, it's already fated whether you'll recover or die. Therefore, step 3, going to the doctor is totally futile. If you're fated to live, you gotta live. If you're fated to die, well, save yourself the copay, right? You can see how this high-level logic easily trickles down into a really dangerous everyday apathy. I mean, why take any action at all if the outcome is already locked in?
And this builds into what Aristotle called logical fatalism. He pointed out a very basic rule of logic. Any statement must be either true or false. So if someone back in 1952 made a prediction that a war would happen on January 6, 2011, well, that statement was either true or false the exact moment it was spoken. If it was true back in 1952, then in 2011, the war necessarily takes place. Just the simple fact that statements about the future have a definitive truth value right now makes those future events seem completely unavoidable.
We can actually take this even further. Look at philosopher Nelson Pike's famous scenario about a man named Jones. Okay, so 80 years ago, God infallibly knew that Jones would mow his lawn tomorrow. Tomorrow arrives. Jones must mow his lawn. Even if he absolutely hates yard work, he has literally no choice. Because if he chooses not to, it means God's knowledge 80 years ago was false, which obviously is impossible for an all-knowing being. So divine foreknowledge seemingly strips poor Jones of any authentic choice.
Which leads us into Section 3, two extreme worldviews, freedom versus control.
This agonizing puzzle hasn't just stayed in the realm of theory, by the way. To solve it, historical thinkers basically sprinted to two absolute extremes. On one side, philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Friedrich Nietzsche claimed absolute freedom for mankind. But to do so, they felt they had to entirely deny the existence of God. Sartre famously believed man is condemned to be free. On the flip side, thinkers like John Calvin and Baruch Spinoza took the exact opposite route. They argued for absolute predestination, claiming that our feeling of freedom is purely an illusion, and humans are strictly determined by a divine nature.
Now, that extreme pursuit of freedom heavily influences our world today. Nietzsche famously asked, "God is dead. Must we ourselves not become gods?" The source material notes that this absolute freedom profoundly shapes the modern Western world. It can create a culture where humanity seeks ultimate power over its destiny, acting as gods, but often without the burden of moral responsibility. We just want the power to do whatever we want, completely independently, without anyone to answer to.
Let's look at how to resolve this in Section 4. Reconciling Fate and Freedom, the Synthesis.
But do we really have to choose between those two extreme poles? Well, St. Augustine offered a crucial distinction to this problem. He wrote, "God knows man's future choices because they are going to happen. They do not happen because he knows them." This is a massive paradigm shift. Foreknowledge is merely observation. It is not causation. It's like, just because you sit on a hill and watch a train coming down the tracks, that doesn't mean you're the one actually pushing the train. God's perfect knowledge simply observes what you will freely choose to do.
And St. Thomas Aquinas built beautifully on this concept. He argued that humans naturally possess a rational appetite, which we call the will. This will is naturally free to choose among different courses of action. And more importantly, Aquinas emphasized that this free will is absolutely essential for moral responsibility. I mean, think about it. If fatalism is true, the whole concept of rewarding good behavior and punishing bad behavior completely falls apart. Society itself relies on the fact that we're free agents, responsible for our choices.
So bringing all these philosophical strands together, we arrive at this really elegant synthesis. Augustine argued we actually need both. The right belief, which acknowledges a higher power and divine foreknowledge, plus the right life, which requires the active moral exercise of our free will. By accepting our innate rational capacity for free choice, we successfully defeat that cold, apathetic trap of fatalism, and we do it without having to abandon the concept of an all-knowing God. We aren't just puppets, we are active participants in our own lives.
Which brings us to the end of our journey today. And I want to leave you with this somewhat mind-bending question. Did you actually choose to watch this explainer today, or was it predetermined from the very beginning of time? Think about the specific clicks you made, the interest that led you right here. Was it the active exercise of your free will, or just the inevitable unfolding of a script written ages ago? It's a pretty wild cognitive dissonance that forces us to question our own reality. Anyway, I hope this structured look at the source material helped clarify these ancient, massive ideas for you. Keep questioning and keep learning.